Hi, welcome to 90% Knitting. This is episode 153, and I'm Lisa, your host, also known as Fiber Nymph on Ravelry, Plurk, and Instagram. Today is a very, very chilly Tuesday, February 24th. -9, actual temperature this morning, not wind chill, -9. I wonder what it is now. Let me check. I was just out there. I had to sprinkle. I put ashes down in my driveway when it's a solid sheet of ice like it is so that people can get up and down without falling and killing themselves. Oh, it's up to 7 degrees. We're in the positive numbers now. There was one day last week where I woke up to -14 actual temperature. I just don't even know what to say about this anymore. This winter is dragging on, and we're slated to have negative temperatures almost every day this week in the mornings. And then I think this weekend we might go up into the 30s, perhaps even the 40s. I can't even imagine it. Like, break out the swimwear, right? And I know it's not just me. People all over the Northeast and even the South, they were getting really cold temperatures too. I was watching Laura from Jinx Yarn, the Dyer's Notebook, her podcast yesterday. She was talking about they had ice near where she's at, and she's in Texas. She's like, I don't go out in this. And I don't blame her. If I could avoid going out in it, I do. So, anyway, let's get going. I've got a lot to talk about today and not a whole lot of time to talk about it because I've got people coming over. So my yarn helpers are coming over today, and I'm hoping to get this done before they get here so I don't have to keep pausing and stopping and starting and everything. So anyway, I wanted to say hello to Christine from Nova Scotia and CJ from British Columbia. We've got a couple of new Canadians watching the podcast, so thank you for introducing yourselves on the 90% Knitting board in the welcome thread. That was nice of you. And also, I just wanted to mention, I know that from the last couple of episodes when I did drawings, there are a couple people who finally got in touch with me about their prizes, and I haven't shipped them all out yet. So if you're waiting on a prize, it's still here, and I will get it out to you as soon as I possibly can. Shipping prizes I have to do a different way than when I do like my regular shipping for the shop because it's not like through a sale kind of thing. I have to do it with a different program, and it's just a couple extra steps, and sometimes it takes me a little longer, and I apologize for that. I'm sorry, my throat's tickly all of a sudden. But anyway, the prizes are coming to you, I promise. All right, let's talk about knitting because I actually have a lot of it. Despite the fact that it's been a week and a half since I podcasted, if you saw the note on the 90% Knitting board, I did put a heads up last week just saying I was not going to be able to do episode 153 last week because I was just super busy, and I'm still super busy, but I wanted to get a podcast out before it was much longer because the problem with waiting more than a week to podcast is stuff builds up, and then it's like a really, really long podcast, and they're already really long. So anyway, I wanted to get this one out today. I've got a lot of knitting to show you. Even though I've been super busy dyeing, I've managed to get a lot of things knit up. Two of which are things that you never even saw on the needles, and they're already finished objects. So I'll start with those because they're actually kind of fun. I was a couple weeks ago, shortly after I recorded last time, I was just in the mood to do some comfort knitting. And for me, comfort knitting is knitting with really yummy, soft, comfortable yarn that I love. It's squishy. And also knitting a pattern that I don't have to think about or that is very easy. And so that was what I wanted to do. And I had been knitting so many things recently on small needles that I really wanted to knit some things on larger needles. So that's what I did. And the first project that I started and finished that you have not yet seen is this set of hand-spun arm warmers. I will put them on for you. I was inspired to make these from watching Deesa's last episode where she was wearing a set of, hers weren't hand spun. I think it was her hand dyed yarn though, which was super pretty. But there were just these little arm warmers that she knit up, real simple, and I saw them and I thought, oh my gosh, those are wonderful. I love them. Okay, these are actually the same length. There we go. I did not follow a pattern. Okay, my shawl is going to leave me because it's going to keep falling off. I'll talk about the shawl a little bit later, though, if you want. It's old. It's not a new item. Anyway, it was really simple. I basically just did a 2x2 ribbing band. I put in a little thumb hole and then knit stockinette, and then did another 2x2 band and bound off. That was it. That was. I didn't even do my crochet edge that I often do around thumb holes. I didn't bother with that. It's not a pattern. I winged this the whole way. I did write on my project page, however, what I did exactly. So if you wanted to make them, you could follow that. This is out of my hand spun though. This is some Hiwassee Creek Dye Works Falkland, and the colorway was Lovely Luna Lovegood. And I absolutely adored this colorway. And this green, I don't know if you can see it how well. Well, it's coming up okay right now. It was really hard to photograph when I was trying to take pictures of these arm warmers. See, it's not really focusing now either. Let me see if I can. There. Oh, that's a really, really good. I just love that pop of green. It just makes me so happy, and it's throughout both of them in different places. So it was just a lot of fun. It was a very cozy, warm, comfortable thing to knit. This was actually sort of an Aran weight yarn, and I ended up knitting these on US 7s, so they're a little bit bulletproof. They're definitely dense, but you know what, that's fine. I plan to just wear these pretty much around the house when I'm cold. I can't really knit in them, and I definitely can't dye in them, but as far as anything else, well, the nice thing, okay, see, the nice thing about just having them this length, because usually when I do regular fingerless mitts, I make them this tall. Like, I make them almost as tall as my pinky, but that's cumbersome to really do a whole lot. That's good for driving and everything, but if I want to be wearing them around the house and be able to do stuff, I need more of my hands exposed. So the nice thing about just having this little band here is I can just slip my thumb out if I really need to and just wear them as kind of like a long sleeve woolly thing. And I can put like another sleeve over top or whatever, you know. And it works great. So I adore these. And like I said, if you want to make them, I wrote down what I did on my project page. Super easy. You could do them with worsted weight. I mean, like I said, these turned out really, really heavy. But anyway, that was one thing that I did. Another thing that I ended up starting and finishing, and this is going to actually be something that I'm going to write up as a pattern, is I had a skein of my cozy yarn, which is my worsted weight base, superwash worsted, and it had been balled up since the holidays, because I think I was originally planning to maybe make a pattern or make a gift out of it, and then I didn't. So it had, but it was already caked up. So I pulled it out because of all of my yarns, I have to tell you, cozy is probably the squishiest, most comfortable yarn I have for me. I mean, Mega is squishy, the DK weight, the Bonafide is squishy. I mean, there's a lot of them that are squishy, but as far as like weight-wise and, you know, wool content-wise and everything, I love knitting with my cozy base. So it was a very comfortable knit from that perspective. And I decided, you know what, I'm just going to knit a cowl. This was actually, well, here's the finished product. This was a skein of my American Legend colorway. I had gotten a special order. Someone wanted the American Legend on cozy, but they wanted it in a variegated as opposed to a self-striping. And I had never done it that way before, so whenever I get orders like that where I'm kind of trying something new with a colorway that I've not done it before, I always do more than one. So I had done 2 of that just so there was 2 for the customer to choose from, and I kept the other one because this isn't something I typically dye up on cozy. I don't do variegateds and stuff like that. I do it as special orders if somebody requests it, but otherwise I don't put it in the shop. So I had this and I decided, you know what, I'm just going to knit a cowl. And I was just going to knit a ribbed cowl. I wanted to make it long enough that I could double it and be really simple, like I said, comfort knitting that I didn't have to think about. Well, I cast on and I got through about, oh, I don't know, I'd say 5 rows of ribbing, and I thought, okay, I'm bored. And so I started winging a pattern. Again, it was a design on the fly kind of deal. And so what I ended up with were these kind of traveling, rambling kind of, whoops, I can't do this on the, oh my gosh, I am like totally messing this up. This way, hard to do on the camera. They're it's got twisted stitches, it's got eyelets, it's got you know, leaning stitches, and then in the middle it's a ribbing with some twisted stitch motifs in it, and then the top is kind of a duplicate of the bottom. So this was probably one of the easiest things design-wise that I've done in a while, because a lot of times if you're designing something, like you're starting it and then it's like, oh no, that's not quite right, you rip it out. You have to mess around. I didn't have to mess around a whole lot. There was a couple places where I did rip back and try and change things up a little, but for the most part this went pretty easily, and it was very, very exciting from that standpoint. What I plan to do, I do plan to write this up as a pattern to put in my shop, my Ravelry pattern shop at some point. I'd like to get a couple of test knitters though. So I'm going to throw that out there. If anybody has a skein of worsted weight yarn, you're going to need about a full skein, like 220 yards, 218, 220 yards of a worsted weight. I'd love to see what it looks like in a self-striping. I'd love to see what it looks like in like a tonal or a semi-solid. And I'm going to knit up another one also in a tonal yarn. So anyway, if there's a couple people, I only need a couple, so if I get barraged with people saying they'd like to test knit and, you know, I say yes to the first couple people, I apologize to the people I have to say no to, but I don't need 500 test knitters. You know, it's just, I've got some other designs though that I might need test knitters for coming up, so I'm in a design mode, and I don't have time to design. I always end up wanting to design things when I'm super busy. I don't know why that happens that way. Anyway, so yeah, this was started and finished inside of a few days, and I love it. It's super soft and squishy. Here, I'll show it to you on too. Now, it's not doubleable. Like, I can't like double it around, you know, like an infinity cow kind of doubling. But you can wear it this way, so it's nice and high. Or, I like this part of it, you can double it this way, and it's almost like a cowl neck cowl. Now, I'm not doing that very well at the moment, but I had it on the other day, and it looked really neat that way. So, versatile. It'll keep your neck warm. So, anyway, that was a project. And I did that on US 8s. So, worsted weight, US 8s. Anyway, all right, another finished object. I know, right? I had this on the needles for a while, and I quit knitting on my hand-spun Afghan squares back when I started doing that Afghan for Christopher for Christmas. And so this has been languishing ever since then. So I pulled this little puppy out and I finished it up. And I love it. I love how it turned out. I ended up using 2 different yarns on it. The middle, let's see, the middle, and then the first set of logs, you know, because I'm using basically the log cabin kind of pattern. But then starting, I think the last garter ridge of this one was a new yarn. And so then it was darker. And the other thing was the first yarn that I used was lighter weight, and then the second one was a heavier weight, so I had to adjust my stitches. But it turned out okay, and I really love the colors together. And I like this green. I like the green at the edge. This obviously needs blocked, but I'm loving how these squares for this Afghan are turning out, because they are just so motley and kind of mix and match, and I think it's going to be really fun once I get them done and put together. I can't remember. I didn't bother to look which square this is, how many I have. I don't know. I'll look it up and let you know next time. But anyway, I finished that one, and then I started another one. Again, comfort knitting. These are so comfortable to knit on. And this, I can't remember. The colorway of this is something peas, and this fiber came from Cozy Makes. I bought it a long time ago. It may have even been a Farm Fiber Club shipment. And I want to say it's CVM. I'm not 100% positive, but I think it was CVM. Maybe. I don't know. I just like the greens. And I honestly can't remember. This was already balled up. I can't remember if I already did a square out of this green. I haven't looked. See, that's the thing. I have not been to my project page for this in a while. And so I may have already done one of these green squares, but you know what? I'm doing another one because I've got plenty of yarn to do it. So I started it last night. Pretty happy spring greens. And again, they'll all need to be blocked so they can fit together. But I like having these on the needles because they're simple and easy, and I can just pull them out and knit a little bit at a time, and it's not a big deal. So there were those. I do have a hoe also. My first Atlantic Current sock is finished. I'm very happy with it. Here's the other side. Love the yarn. The yarn is from Unwind Yarn Company, Journey Sock Base in the Feria de Valencia colorway. And the Atlantic Current sock pattern is from Melissa Tuttle Sibley. And yeah, I have the first sock done. I did not cast the second sock on, which is really odd for me because I usually do immediately cast on a second sock whenever I bind one off. But I bound this off and then I didn't have time to cast the other one on. And I just haven't yet. But I very, very rarely have second sock syndrome, so it will get done eventually. Yeah, it just didn't get done at that point in time. So, but at least I have one sock done. I did work on, see, I don't think I even have this. I don't think I had it in the notes last time and I even commented on it. I'm going to add it right now just so I don't forget. Where are you? Nope, here it is. Another sock I have on the needles that I think I showed you last time was the Fruit Loop socks, which I told you I'm making for Emma's friend Heather, who also helps me with yarny stuff. So I was this far last time, so I only made this much progress. I didn't make a whole ton of progress, but I'm probably going to go to, let's see, I'm on the purple stripe. So I'm going to finish the purple stripe and then do the green stripe, and I may stop there and then start doing the heel, or put the yarn in for the afterthought heel. Because I don't think I'm going to make these super, super long. I'm not sure yet. I may get the gumption up to do a whole nother color repeat, striping repeat. I don't know. We'll see. At any rate, this is my Fiber Nymph Dye Works Bounce Base. I'm knitting them on my normal US 1.5 needles, and this is the Fruit Loops colorway. So another, you know, simple, easy, comfortable knitting, comfort knitting. Although sock knitting, even though it's comfortable because it's easy, because it's such small needles and small yarn, it's not as comfortable as knitting larger stuff, at least not for me. Alrighty, so there were those. I also worked on my Sheep Heid hat. I have not made as much progress on this as I would have. Sorry, I'm losing losing stitches. The nice thing about this Jameson yarn is it's got so much stick to it that when you lose the stitches off the needles, they sit there and they wait for you really patiently, and they don't go anywhere. So anyway, I have full sheep now. I think last week when you saw them, or last time, I don't think I had full sheep. My notes said I had only gotten up to this first chart, but I think I was farther than that. I think maybe I just didn't change my notes. I don't remember now, honestly. But I do have full sheep. So check out my sheepies. Aren't they cute? I just love the sheep. I'm still happy with the pattern. You know, it's coming along. I've got my own little system down for how I'm doing the two colors and everything. So it's all good. I didn't bring the pattern in, but it's the Sheep Heid hat pattern by Kate Davies. And I have the whole collection of 9 authentic Jameson and Smith natural Shetland colors. So that's what it's being knit out of. And that is for our Stranded Colorwork KAL that is going through the end of March. So I still have a whole month left that I can finish my hat. I did start another project. Let me find it. It's another sock, because you can never have too many socks on the needles, I guess. However, I have to warn you, if you are in the 6 Stripes Sock Yarn Club and you have not yet gotten your yarn, I think by now everybody should have gotten their yarn because it shipped out on the 13th So I'm assuming that everybody probably got it, and there's a couple internationals, maybe you didn't get it, but if you did not get it and you don't want to be spoiled, you need to look away, because that's what I started this out of. And I don't want to give it away if you don't want to see it. So look away, like 2 minutes. Just look away for 2 minutes. Okay. This is the sock. And it's also another design on the fly project. I told you, I'm like in this designing mode. Eventually I will ask for test knitters for this as well. It's a pretty easy pattern though. I'm back into my seed stitch mode. I love seed stitch. But I've got the cuff done and the heel turn. I'm on my decreases now. And here is the yarn in the ball. This was the latest shipment for the 6 Stripe Sock Club. It was called 6 More Weeks. The colors all represent things that happen between Groundhog Day and when spring really starts. So yeah, it was kind of a fun colorway. It's a little not my usual colors because it's almost kind of pastel-y. It's not my normal palette that I tend to dye, but it came together really well and I was really happy with it. So anyway, I'm knitting it out of the Traveler base. Okay, so if you don't want to see, you can come back now. I put it away. But I chose to knit mine out of the Traveler base. That's what I had dyed up for myself. And that's my new sport weight base. I hadn't had a chance to really knit a whole lot with it yet, so I wanted to do an actual project. And I have to tell you, I'm loving it. I hated to get rid of my Happy Camper base because I really, really love my Happy Camper base, but it was just such a bear to work with when it came to self-striping. We had so many problems with it. It just tangled around itself anytime we tried to reskein it. And I'm sure it has to do with my process for how I do it, but this yarn is working wonderfully. It's a slightly lighter sport weight than Happy Camper was, but it's definitely a sport weight. I'm knitting the socks on US 2.5s, 3mm needles, and it's creating a really nice fabric. It'll definitely be hardy. And Traveler is the same composition as my Bounce base, which is the 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon. Although it is a 3-ply, not a 2-ply. Bounce is 2-ply. So it's definitely a hardy, nice hardy hold-up yarn. It'll be great for socks. And that's what I wanted to try it out for. So anyway, I have that sock on the needles. I did not work at all on the Mama Vertebrae. I'm not going to say I'm losing interest in it because I'm not. It's just that it's so cold, and I know if I finish that, I mean, I'm sure it'll be warm, but it's not going to be as warm as like a worsted weight sweater or something. And I'll tell you what, I was looking at Melissa Meliabella's project page a week or so ago because she knits sweaters like crazy, and she's got some wonderful sweaters in her project pages that she's done. And I don't know if I have the one here or not because I printed one pattern out. I can't remember what it's called now. I don't know. It doesn't matter. I'm so tempted to cast that on because that would be a nice heavier weight sweater, and it has a cowl neck, and I've really wanted to do a cowl neck sweater. So we'll see. I might break down and do that and let the Mama Vertebrae sit for a while until, because Mama Vertebrae will be a nice springtime sweater, definitely. I'm just kind of in the mood for something warm and snuggly right now. So I don't know. We'll see. I can't make up my mind. I have to stop casting all the things on. That's all I know. Something else though that I do want to cast on is a new shawl. I still have not blocked the Another Door Opens. That's why you're not seeing it. But you will eventually. But this shawl pattern is from Mandarins. I don't know if you've ever watched the Mandarins podcast. Her name is Melody. She is from France, but she's living in Latvia. And she is adorable. I love watching her podcast. But she designed a shawl called Canopy. And let me see if I can find a page. Snip, they all have stuff on it. Well, I'll try to not show much of the pattern here. I want you to see the picture. There, that's really pretty. It's just a really elegant, beautiful shawl. And I loved it as soon as I saw it on her podcast. She made hers out of Road to China Light, which it's so funny. I used to have a huge stash of Road to China Light, and I mainly bought it because I loved all the colors and it was so fuzzy and pretty. I've destashed all of it. I don't think I have any of it left. So I won't be making mine out of Road to China Light. I've got some my own stash yarn here, and I was going to look up to see. Oh, it doesn't matter. If I decide to do it, I'll show you what I'm going to knit it out of. We'll see if I cast it on. I don't know. I'm really, really tempted. I don't know how many projects I really need to have on the needles at one time, but a lot of them are small, right? Like, we can rationalize these things. And it doesn't matter that I'm like crazy, crazy busy with dyeing, with wholesale orders and shop updates and a show coming up. Who needs to sleep, right? I don't know. Okay, moving on. My babbling. That's all for the knitting. I didn't do, oh, that's not true. Spinning. Spinning. How do I not have this on my, oh, I do. I put it in a different place. I'm sorry. I'm just feeling disorganized. I finished the Lincoln. Remember I was spinning the Lincoln that I had done some combing. I finished it up. I spun it, and I've got a pretty gradient. It's a 3-color natural gray gradient. So it has light gray, it has the medium gray that I blended, and then it's got the dark gray. And I ended up with about 216 yards of I would say a sport weight. I'm really pleased with it. It's not the scratchiest yarn I've ever felt. I mean, it's definitely not super, super soft. Like, it's not a superwash merino soft or anything. But with 216 yards, I think it's probably going to end up being, you know, some sort of neckwear of some sort. And I think it'll be fine. I can wear this around my neck. Matter of fact, I walked around with the skein just hanging around my neck. I do that a lot if I'm trying to decide on, you know, the itch factor, the scratch. Not itchy, but like if it's going to bother me. And it hasn't. I think if I was really, really hot, it might prickle, but any yarn is going to kind of bother you after a while if you're super hot anyway. So yeah, I'm really happy with how it turned out. For whatever reason, the black yarn was kind of picky whenever I was spinning it. It really wanted to stick to itself far more than the light and far more than the stuff that I had further blended together. And it was also kind of scurfy. Like, it had sort of that sheep dandruff thing going on with it, which a lot of it fell out as I was spinning. And once it was soaked and everything, it's fine. Like, I'm not thinking, ooh, gross. But that was just weird because I hadn't noticed that while I was blending. I only started to notice it when I was spinning it. So anyway, this is the Lincoln. And I'm glad it's done. It made me very, very happy. I do have another spinning project on the wheel. I haven't done very much on it yet, though, so I didn't bother to bring it in. I'll show it to you next time. Hopefully I'll have more time to work on it. So, all right, that's all of everything that I've worked on. I will just remind you that the Stranded Colorwork Knit Along is going strong. You guys are doing some really fun projects, so please continue to post those. There's a no chatter thread for your pictures of your finished objects. And then if you want to chatter, there's the main thread for the knit along. Melissa in the Meltrian Designs group, she's got a thread also, so please feel free to go over there and double dip. And I noted this in the thread, but I'll let you know too that Steve and Callie from the Dramatic Knits podcast, they're also doing a Colorwork KAL February and March. I hadn't known that before. So that's a happy coincidence. So you can double dip with them too. And theirs is also open to other kind of color work like intarsia and things like that. Ours is more structured. It's just for fair owl, like actual stranded knitting fair owl kind of knitting, but theirs has a little bit broader scope. So anyway, there's all that. Podcasts. Oh my gosh, I have been watching so many new to me podcasts lately because I've been so busy working, and if I'm working, I usually have a podcast on. You know what? I'm being barraged by texts. Let me just make sure there's nothing. Okay. I just want to make sure there's no emergencies. Okay. All right. Sorry. Yes, podcasts. I've been watching a bunch of them, and some of them I'm sure you've already heard of and you know about, but just to let you know, some of the newer ones that I've watched, again, new to me. Some of them are new, but some of them are just new to me, and they have had like a lot of episodes out. There's the Mandarins podcast, which I already mentioned with Melody. Junk Yarn is very new. She's only got 2 episodes out. Her name's Kemper, and she's really cool. I love watching her podcast. She does some really interesting projects, and she's just very, I like listening to her. Knit All the Things with Kara, I don't know how she pronounces it, I'm sorry. She is a student, a college student in Great Britain. I can't remember where, the area, but she's getting ready to finish up school, and so I love listening to her. It's funny because there's her, and then there's that Ichigo Knitter podcast, Ichigo Abroad, and she's a college student too, so it's kind of fun watching college students because they remind me so much of my daughter, and just, you know, the things that they're doing in their lives school-wise and stuff like that. There's like a parallel there, so that's kind of fun, along with the knitting stuff and the general life stuff. There's the Fiber Pusher podcast with Benita. I've only gotten to watch 1 episode of that, but hers is really fun, and I like it. She just has a different approach to it, and I've really enjoyed it, so check that out too. I finally caught an episode of A Nightbird. I think I used to watch that. I feel like I watched it a long time ago, and I'm not sure. I think she's changed. She only records like once a month, if I'm correct. Yeah, and her last one may have actually even been back in December. That may have been the one that I watched. I don't think another one's been out since then. I don't know. I could be wrong on that. But that's with Claire, and that was very nice too. And lastly, at least the last one on my list, and I'm sure I'm missing some on this list, and I'll try to name them another time. But Susan B. Anderson has a podcast. Now, I've heard that Susan B. Anderson has a podcast. I know in my brain somewhere I knew this, but for whatever reason, I never saw it. However, yesterday, a new episode from her popped up on my YouTube subscription page. So obviously I subscribed to her podcast at some point. And I guess she doesn't record super regularly, so I guess that's why I never actually saw it, because what I end up doing is if I'm watching a podcast or listening to a podcast and somebody mentions another podcast that I've not seen yet, I'll often go right then and there and look it up and find it and subscribe to it, knowing that eventually it'll pop up with a new episode in my queue and I can watch it then. So I think that's probably what happened with that one. So it's just been a while, I guess, since maybe she recorded, and that's why it popped up. But I was watching it last night, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, she's holding up a set of Inversibles. I'm like, oh my gosh, like she had my yarn in her hand. She said she bought it from the Loopy U, and I mean, she doesn't know me from Adam, so it wasn't anything like personal or anything like that, but it was just like, I wasn't expecting her to be showing my yarn, because she was showing a bunch of yarn that she's recently gotten. So that was really cool. Susie B. Anderson was showing my yarn. I mean, it's exciting to me anytime anybody on a podcast like shows my yarn that they purchased. It's like, or knit something from my yarn. I'm always excited. It's just totally fun, you know, from my perspective. But I just didn't expect it from like a knitting celebrity, you know. Anyway, she was cute. I liked her podcast. I'll definitely be watching it some more. And like I said, that's not an exhaustive list. There is a new, not new, but new to me audio podcast that I found this past week, and I can't remember who mentioned it. it was something that I was listening to or watching or whatever, but somebody mentioned the Shiny Bees podcast. It's an audio podcast. The woman who does it is named Jo, and it's a knitting podcast. Well, the reason it had been brought up was because she did an interview with Kate Davies. Now, Kate Davies is the person who designed the Sheep Heid hat and does lovely, lovely patterns in general. She's got tons of patterns out, and I love them all pretty much. But she has never done an audio interview before. If you know anything about Kate Davies, you may know that she had a stroke back in 2010, which left her with, I think, well, issues, but one of them, I guess, is she sometimes has trouble processing verbal stuff, audio, like to hear and understand. I don't fully understand. I don't want to say stuff that's not true, but that's what I understand why she's not been too keen on doing audio interviews. So I don't know how Jo convinced her to do one, but I'm so glad she did. It was delightful to listen to. It's the episode 34 of Shiny Bees, and it's just shinybees.com. You can go there and you'll find it. I think there's an episode 35 out now, but 34 was the one with Kate Davies. And what struck me is, you know how when you see people like in print or something, but you've never heard them, and then suddenly you hear their voice, it's not usually the voice that you picture that person having. And it was exactly the same for that, because Kate Davies' voice is nothing like I thought it would be. I mean, it wasn't bad or anything. It was just so different than what I was expecting. So that was fun too. And just a very fun sense of humor, and she's very down to earth and down to the point, and it was fun. I really enjoyed listening to it, so I would highly recommend that. New things. The only new thing I have to show you is some yarn that I got, and this was enabled by Sarah from Fiber Trek, and it is some Upton yarns. She's talked about this yarn so much I had to try it. So I ordered 3 skeins, and this is all, it's a 3-ply Cotswold Romney fingering weight. And I got 3 different colors. This one is natural. It is undyed. This one is dyed with weld, and it's called Lichen, which it's turning a little, it's a little bit more of a yellow green. That's actually a better color for it. And then this one is Madder Root and Weld. She dyes with natural dyes. See, so I know absolutely nothing about those, so that's kind of fun. And this is a yarn that I've never knit with before, so that'll be fun too. I mean, a wool. I've never knit with Cotswold or Romney, so that was my new things. I have one more new thing that I'm waiting for, and it's still not here yet. I think I mentioned it on my last podcast. Still waiting for it to come in the mail. Other than that, let's see, goals revisited. I don't think I really finished anything that I had on my goals list. My whole bulletin board is going to fall down. Hang on. There we go. Yeah, knitting-wise, I've probably gotten about halfway on the Sheep Heid hat, so that's a goal. Pretty much nothing else knitting related, because I've started all this other stuff that wasn't on my goal list. Personally, I did finish my tax stuff, and I did meet with my accountant, so whew, that was a huge thing. It was such a relief to get that off of my list of things to do, because I stress about it every year, and I put it off forever, and I had to get it done. So that's done. That's excellent. Moving into 10%, I'm just basically trying to survive the cold. I'm telling you, these cold temperatures, I already vented about those, but what are you going to do? I did end up, I mean, this is almost like, I feel like I'm in training for like a reality show, like based on surviving cold temperatures. I ended up buying a kerosene heater for the basement, and I've made like a yarn cave in the one corner of my basement where I can dry the yarn, because it's so, on these bitter cold days, it doesn't matter what I do. Even if I have a fire in downstairs in the fireplace or the stove, which I really don't anymore because I don't have much firewood left, it's just so cold down there, and it's such a big open space that it takes forever for the basement to warm up enough to even begin to dry yarn. So I cordoned off the one corner of my basement it's got my refrigerator. I have a small refrigerator downstairs and storage shelves, and it's also where my furnace is. And so it's a small area, just kind of not a very wide entryway. So basically I put a sheet over the entryway. I set up the kerosene heater back there and all my drying racks. And I'll tell you what, it gets nice. It gets to be between like 76, 80 degrees back in that corner. Oh my gosh, I've never used a kerosene heater before, and I was totally freaking out about it because like I just have this vision of like exploding myself or something while operating it, and I haven't. It's actually very easy to use, and I think the newer ones are much more reliable. I do have a carbon monoxide detector also back in that corner, so I'm being safe. But other than that, yeah, I'm good. And we have smoke detectors and everything. So anyway, that has been my method for drying yarn now this past week or so, because I can't get it dry in a timely fashion any other way. And I've got a little space heater, an electric space heater that I've just started carrying around with me in the house occasionally if I'm someplace where it's kind of cold, because it does throw a nice little bit of heat out, quite frankly. But yeah, but like I said, my driveway, once again, is a solid sheet of ice. And I did get out there and plow over the weekend when we got all the snow that we got. So it's not like the last time where I hadn't plowed and everything melted and then became ice. It's like I plowed, but everything that was still there just froze over. Even the gravel that was showing has a sheen of ice on it. It's ridiculous. So I'm basically just putting pathways of ashes down my driveway so that people can walk down without killing themselves. You got to do what you got to do. But yeah, there's that. On the bright side, Emma will be home in 2 days. Her term break starts on Thursday. She is so ready to be home, and I am so ready to have her home. I can't even begin to tell you. So I'm looking forward to that. She'll be here for about 9 days. And I just can't wait to see my girl. So I feel like there were a bunch of other things that I was going to talk about and mention to you, and I have no idea what they were at this point. I need to start making better notes throughout the week before I do a podcast, especially when it goes longer than a week from time to time that I record. I don't know. I am going to pause here. And it's probably going to be a fairly long pause on my end. You won't notice it because it'll come right up afterwards. But I do have shop news for you. There will be a shop update this Saturday. Excuse me. Saturday the 28th at 10 a.m. Eastern. So I have stuff to show you for that. I'm really excited about this update for a multitude of reasons. So if you're interested in hearing about that, stay tuned. If you're not, then I will say goodbye to you now. But I have a few other things I need to do before I can have time to sit down and record that last section. So I'm going to do that, get a few things done, and then I will record that and hopefully be able to get this episode up by this afternoon. So anyway, thank you for watching. If you're going to stick around for the shop update or the shop news segment, hang on. I'll be right back. And otherwise, I'll see you next week. Stay warm. Hi, I'm back. This is the shop news segment of the show. Sorry, I've had kind of a long break, so you can probably tell the light's probably different in here. But I'm finally back. And I realized I forgot to tell you about my shawl. I was going to tell you about it. It's called Autumn. That's the pattern. I don't remember who the designer was. I know it was a JoJo Land pattern, like the JoJo Land Yarn Company, because I think I got a kit with the pattern and the bag of yarn, the JoJo Land Rhythm. I made it a long time ago, I think like 2010, but it's on my project page if you want to look it up. It was a really good exercise in learning how to knit entrelac, because you learn how to knit forward and backward without actually turning your work. It saves a ton of time if you can do that. So anyway, all right. So shop news. Let's see. First of all, last week I told you about a new thing I was going to be starting each month. I was going to offer minis of the month. So the minis of the month were going to be a mini skein, 100 yards of a self-striping, and then 100 yards of a coordinating semi-solid that would be together in a set. And I would do pre-orders for those on the 1st of every month, and then they would ship by the last of every month. And I was going to start that in March. So that's still the plan, and I'm very excited about it. However, I've been refining this idea over the last week and a half since I recorded and told you about it initially. Initially, I said I was going to do like one light set and one dark set. So there would actually be 2 sets every month that you could choose from. I've decided to not do that right now. Number one, I just don't know how well the idea is going to go over. I don't want to have a whole bunch of things, you know, because I'll probably dye some in advance just to have them and I can ship them out sooner. I want to see how this goes, and rather than make it more complicated, I'd like to start it out less complicated. So there will only be 1 color set per month to begin with, at least. The other thing I had said is some months might be like new colorways, other months it might be current colorways that I already do that are popular. I've decided, since this isn't really a club thing or anything, what I decided I'm going to do is the minis of the month, the self-striping is always going to be a new color way, a new striping combination colors that you haven't seen before. And that will be its introduction into the shop as through these minis. So the first way you'll be able to get that yarn is through the minis. After that, after they've shipped out, the minis have shipped out from the pre-orders, then I will start dyeing that colorway for the shop. So just a little way to make it fun without it making it be like an official club kind of thing that you have to commit to, and that I have to come up with a lot of colorways that I will then not be able to dye for 6 months. You know what I mean? It's best of both worlds, I think. I think this will work out really well. So you can be looking for that on Sunday. March 1st is when I will put that listing up. There will be a picture of that month's mini set. So you'll actually see what you're pre-ordering. Okay, it's not going to be like a surprise, you know, like a club that would, you don't know what you're getting. You'll actually be able to see it. You can decide if you like it. If you don't, fine. I don't have them to show you now for March, but the picture will be in the listing, so you'll get to see it then. Okay, I hope that was clear. And those will all be done on my bounce base, at least to begin with. At some point, I might offer them on another base, but for right now, I'm just going to do it with the bounce base. And like I said, it'll be 2 20-gram skeins. Actually, I missaid that because I said 100 yards before. That's not 100 yards, that's 80 yards. So 2 80-yard or 20-gram approximately skeins, 1 self-striping, 1 semi-solid. So, and those are pre-orders. So you can look for that listing on Sunday. I also wanted to mention I'm going to have a new pre-order policy with regard to shipping. I've never done this before, and I'm finding that I kind of need to. Anytime I offer pre-orders, or if you order something from the shop that is listed as a pre-order, like you know, inversibles that you can special order, custom colors, or, you know, semi-solids or whatever. If you're ordering a pre-order, I would request that you order that separately from anything that you're also ordering from the shop. So like when I do the update on Saturday, if you want to order stuff from the shop that's already in stock that I'm going to be shipping out, you know, next week, great. If you also want to order, say, you know, a custom colorway set of inversibles, I'd ask that you check out with the stuff that's in stock and then do a separate order for the special order items. The reason for this is the shipping won't reflect the fact that these are going to go out in 2 separate shipments. As of up till now, I've eaten that cost of having to ship out a second shipment from 1 order. And that it's happening more and more, and so I need to not have that happen. So if by chance you don't, you know, see that message, because I am going to put that disclaimer in all of the special order items. If you don't see that or whatever, I will contact you and let you know that I'm going to need to charge you like the balance of the shipping for that special order item, since it won't ship out until later on, you know, 4 to 6 weeks later. I can't keep eating those shipping costs, and I would much rather have the shipping be accurate than me end up having to raise yarn prices in general to make up for what I'm losing out on shipping, if that makes any sense. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that, so please be aware of that if you are doing any pre-orders. So likewise, if you end up waiting till Sunday to order something out of the shop and you want to order the minis, please do them on 2 separate orders. So, all right. Yeah, after that, the only other stuff I have talked to you about is the shop update, which is going to be Saturday, the 28th. Managing to squeeze one more shop update into this short month of February. It will be at 10 a.m. Eastern, and it's all self-striping in fingering weight and in sport weight. And I'm really excited to be introducing my new sport weight base to you, because this is its first official introduction into the shop in any bulk. I did put some semi-solids up of it last week, but I've not done striping or anything. It was originally it was introduced in the club, the 6 Stripe Sock Club. Those people in the club were the first who had the opportunity to purchase that, and I did have a couple who chose that base. So there's been a couple people already using it, which is fun. There's if you watch the first part of the podcast, you may have looked at the sock that I'm knitting out of it. I started a sock using the colorway that I just shipped out, the last shipment, the 6 More Weeks colorway. So I'm really loving the base, and I think you guys will too. It's a little bit of a lighter sport weight than my Happy Camper had been, but it's got more yardage. It's 328 yards, and it's an 80-20 blend of superwash merino and nylon, so it's the same composition as my bounce base, but this is a 3-ply. It's going to hold up really well, and I love it. I love knitting with it. I was sad when I was discontinuing Happy Camper because I always loved that so much too, but I really do like this as a sport weight as well. So hopefully you will too. So I will show you all of the stuff I'm going to have on Traveler in a minute, but let me show you what else is going to be up. First of all, I have 2 more skeins of Hidden Treasure, which was the new St. Patrick's Day colorway that I showed you last update. So there's 2 more skeins of that. It's a 2-striper with this dark foresty green, this bluish foresty green, and then it's a sprucey green, not a foresty green. And then the second stripe is a variegated with a foresty green, a turquoisey green, and then pops of gold, which are the hidden treasure that leprechauns have. So there's 2 more skeins of that. Then I did dye up some of my leprechaun socks, which is my St. Patrick's Day color that I've had for a while now, but I do it every year. So there's a couple on Bounce and a couple on Bedazzled. And then I did, I'm going to lose the shawl again here because it's falling off. I did some Sad Panda. So there's going to be 2 skeins of Sad Panda on Bedazzled. And Sad Panda is another one that had the blue stripe as a tonal stripe. It's got 3 different colors of blue in that one stripe. But I also did it on the new base, Traveler. So there will be 2 skeins of Sad Panda on the Traveler Sport Weight base. Okay, so also on Traveler, I've got a bunch. I really did a lot to introduce this new base to you guys. There will be, and there's 2 of all of these, so I'm just not going to keep saying 2. So we'll have Bam Pow Zap. My gosh, I cannot talk. Bam Zap Pow. My comic book inspired colorway. Fervent Fjord. Fruit Loops. 2 of those. Serial Killer. I did another batch of Serial Killer this week, and it turned out darker like the very first batch had turned out. I don't know what happened with the batch I did last week, that it was significantly lighter, but we're back to the dark version, and I like this version a lot, so hopefully I've got that under control now. So this is, I don't know why it's not focusing. Arrgh. Let's go. I want you to be able to see the twist in this yarn. It's such a nice twist. There we go. Oh, perfect. Can you see that? It's a really, really nice balanced round yarn. I love that. So Serial Killer. Did Colors of Kells. I haven't done this colorway in a while. It's not one I do frequently, but I really like it. And it's inspired by the colors in the illuminated manuscript of the Book of Kells. However, one of the last times I dyed it up, somebody also pointed out that it's the colors from the cover of the book Divergent, which I've not read Divergent, but my daughter has, and she actually has a poster of it on her bedroom door. And I compared the yarn, and indeed they are very similar colors. Highlighters, I'm sorry, mental block there for a moment. There, see if I get it close enough you can see it. So highlighters, and then Shadowlands. If it's going to, there we go, Shadowlands. And then I did this colorway, which technically isn't new, but this was a club colorway. This was one of the colorways I did for Fiber for the Spin Challenge Club last year. This is Emergence, not Emergent, so it has nothing to do with the books. But it was a spring-oriented colorway where the colors of spring kind of emerge from, you know, this gray. You have the gray of winter. Here, I'm going to get my finger in the right place. The gray of winter, and then you've got that pale, pale yellow that the plants start to sprout with often, and then they move into a brighter green. And finally, as summer approaches, you get that dark verdant green. So those are 4 stripes. This stripe's according to the same striping pattern as Shadowlands, so there will be a stripe of gray in between each of the, I hope I'm telling you that right. You know what, I'm lying. It doesn't, it's just a 4 stripe, I'm sorry. I'll do a mock-up of it and put it in the listing as well. So that does not stripe like Shadowlands. I have another one that does though. That's why I was confused. So anyway, but that's Emergence. Nice, soft, bright, springy colors. Gosh, I wish I could. Okay. This one is a new, okay, the last 2 are new colorways. Actually, the last 3, but the last 2 I'm going to show you right now on Traveler are both new colorways. This one is called Gunmetal. And this will have 2 wide stripes, which will be this dark gunmetal blue and the light blue. And then there will be 2 smaller stripes of grays. There will be a light gray and a medium gray, which are sort of hard for me to point out to you just because they're blended right now. But you'll see them when they stripe. So this will stripe with, you know, the wide dark blue, a narrow gray, a wide light blue, and a narrow gray. And I called it gunmetal because if you ever look at like the barrel of a shotgun, I know not all of you are like gun aficionados, but if you look at them, it's like, it looks like it's just a dark piece of metal, but it's really not. Because if you look at it, you see the sheen of blue, and in other light, it kind of looks gray. And then there's also a certain glint to it that just has this kind of really light blue. It's almost like the reflection is the best way I can describe it. So this may not be the color you think of when you think of what a piece of gunmetal would look like, but that is what it made me think of, and that's what inspired it. So gunmetal. This is the one that stripes the way Shadowlands does. This I'm calling Davy Jones Locker. I know, I've got a lot of these, you know, ocean, deep sea, water colors, colorways. I can't get away from them because I love these colors, and I keep doing them. I tweak them with different colors, slightly different, in different configurations, and that's what this one is. This one will have a stripe of gray in between the other stripes, which will be this deep peacocky water blue. I know peacocks don't go in the water, but that's the best way I can describe it. It's a deep blue. an oceany blue. Then there will be a moderate turquoisey blue. And then there will be this oceany, trying to get my finger, greenish blue, turquoisey. There's more green than blue in this one, in that stripe. So again, I will do a mock-up and it'll be in the listing as well so you can see it. So that is Davy Jones Locker. Okay, and lastly, this is the colorway this week that I'm really, really excited about because I've been thinking about doing it for so long and I finally had a chance to do it. And I've got to explain it to you. There's an explanation behind this. It's not going to appeal to everybody. I can tell you that right now. But for those of you who like geeky math-oriented things, you might really like this. Okay, this is the colorway. Let me show it to you first. It is called Pi Day. Okay, now you might know what Pi Day is. Pi is in P-I, the numerical symbol. March 14th, because pi begins with 3.14 and then goes on infinitely into this non-repeating decimal. We use pi in calculating the circumference of a circle. If you know the diameter, you multiply it times pi and you get the circumference of a circle, which, by the way, is actually very useful in yarn because the diameter, if you just measure across how long something needs to be, let's say you want something to be 10 inches long, you can multiply 10 inches by pi and get approximately the length of the yarn that you would need to cast that on. So anyway, because a stitch is a circle approximately. It's why that works. Anyway, I'm digressing. Pi Day is March 14th. Okay, so I have long wanted to do a striping pattern based on the digits of pi. And so that's what I did. This yarn is not going to be for somebody who wants their socks to match exactly, because it won't, no matter what you do. Unless you would buy 2 skeins of it, you're not going to get 2 matching socks out of this yarn, because when I do my winding, my striping patterns, I use a PVC warping tool essentially that I've built, and I wind the yarn, and each wrap of the yarn is approximately 3 feet, 36 inches, okay? So each wrap, and if I do a stripe that's like 5 wraps, then it's 5 times 36, so it's like 5 yards long is that stripe. This one, however, I didn't do that. This is a 5-stripe yarn, but each stripe goes, the wraps went in the order of the digits in pi. So the first stripe was 3 wraps. The next stripe was 1 wrap. The next stripe was 4 wraps. The next stripe, you know what I mean, and so on and so on. I don't have the whole thing memorized, so I can't really tell you. I don't want to make it any more confusing. However, once I got to the end of the 5th color and I came back to the first stripe, instead of it wrapping 3 times, it wrapped 9 times. Get it? Because then the next 5 numbers of pi are 9, 2, 6, 5, 3. And then the next 5 are 5, 8, 9, 7, 9. So the stripes went, the length of them will go in order of the number, the digits in the number pi. Are you following me so far? I hope so. Here's the other thing about it. The digits in pi also include some zeros. So how do you represent zeros whenever you're wrapping according to those digits? Well, you skip that color. So there are going to be places in this skein of yarn where not only are the stripes not going to be in any type of predictable width pattern, but you're also going to have skipped stripes, colors. So the colors, which basically they go this key lime. Okay, that's the other part. Pi Day, people also often make pie for Pi Day. So I Googled like the most popular pies in the United States. And there's a lot of different lists. I pulled out 5 that I thought would work well together as colors. So they are peach, strawberry rhubarb, chocolate cream, key lime, and apple. Just so you know, that's what the colors represent. So it's going to stripe this key lime, then the peach, and then the chocolate cream, which is the brown, then the strawberry rhubarb, which obviously is the reddish one, and then apple. However, you don't use the skins in apple, so I did not do it to be a red color. I did it to be a cinnamony apple slice color. So that's what that is. So there will be places in the sequence where a 0 hits, and instead of going in that order, you're going to miss one of those colors because it's a 0 in the digits of pi. I hope you followed all that. In my brain, this makes perfect sense. The other thing to know about these skeins, and I will put this in the listing as well, each skein will come with a little stitch marker tied to one of the ties on the end. So if you open this up, here's where the one tie, and this is the tie that has the two ends tied together of the skein. The end, when you cut this, that has this little stitch marker on it, that is your beginning end. That is the end that starts with the 3 of pi, the very first digit. So if you are at all interested in starting to knit at the beginning of pi, you're going to want to start on the end of that has the stitch marker. If you don't care and you think this is all very silly and you just like the colors, that's fine. But if you are somebody who absolutely will be twitchy if your stripes do not match up on your socks or whatever you make out of this, don't buy this yarn. It's not what you're going to want. It's not going to make you happy. It's going to make you crazy. But if you want something fun and like kind of nitty and mathy and geeky and weird, it's fun. So Pi Day. There will be 2 skeins in Bounce, 2 in Bedazzled, and 2 on the new Sport Weight Traveler. And I'll include in the listing how many digits I got through in pi. I think for Bounce it went through the first 74 digits of pi. Bedazzled went a little farther than that because there's more yardage, and Traveler obviously didn't go quite as far because there's less yardage. But anyway, so this is Pi Day. I love this, and I hope the colorway goes over well. I think it's really fun. I will definitely do more up for the next update, which should happen prior to Pi Day in March. And we'll see. We'll take it from there. So anyway, tell me, do you think this is just weird and bizarre, or do you really like the idea and want some sort of crazy mismatched socks? And who knows, there's so many pies. That's the other thing. I had such a hard time deciding which colors I wanted to use based on actual PIE, pie. I may end up doing Pi Day version 2 with other pie colors sometime. You never know. We'll see. But anyway, I had a lot of fun making these, and I hope you'll like them too. The only other thing I can think of that will be in the shop this week, there will probably be some more inversible sets because I'm getting ready to send out another batch of special order ones. So they're, you know, extras. Some of those will be going up in the shop. Other than that, I think that's it. This ran longer than I wanted it to, but Pi took a long time to explain. So anyway, have a great week, and hopefully I will get to talk to you next week without there being such a long break. So anyway, have a good week. Stay warm. Take care.